Hello, dear friends. I'm sincerely glad to greet you again. And today we're going to talk with the esteemed Igor Mikhailovich Danilov.
Greetings.
Igor Mikhailovich, in our videos, we said that the participants of the Creative Society project are like sowers. Each one follows the other and continuously sows, informs people about the Creative Society project, and sheds the light of truth on the dark sides of the consumerist format. Actually, we will only see the result when the whole planet becomes green. That is when we build the Creative Society. However, there are also interim results, which are extremely encouraging. We can already see that the seeds that have been sown are sprouting and bearing fruit. So many people have already joined the Creative Society project. Of course, there are also many people who know about the Creative Society project, but do not act yet. As they say, everything has its time. Some people probably need more time for this seed to take root, to realize and understand something for themselves. Yet there is an interesting tendency that after the forum Global Crisis, there is a way out. We received a lot of letters with stories that precisely after the forum, many people switched from being passive observers and supporters of the Creative Society project to being active and began to take an active part in it. It is interesting that for some people it took months, whereas for others even years. At times they even cited the number that they only started taking an active part in the project after 2 years. Another very interesting observation is that all these letters include words of enormous gratitude to you, Igor Mikhailovich, and enormous gratitude to the participants of the Creative Society project for not giving up at some point, for not giving up now, for persevering in their actions and informing people. It is precisely thanks to this kind of personal example, thanks to this kind of joint teamwork, and I quote, "The seeds are sprouting even through the asphalt." By the asphalt, they even meant themselves in this case.
A simple question. Why do they say not giving up? And why did they stay idle for a long time and wait for the seed to sprout through them, like through the asphalt? A simple question for you, friends. Why do so many people, well, not many, but all people understand that the Creative Society is what they want? It really is. But they sit back and do nothing. It might seem to be a simple question, while behind it, there are a lot of, I would say, serious topics, and each of them can be discussed individually. But to simplify, we can sum it up in one word. People do not believe in themselves. And this is really so. It is disbelief.
That is so true, indeed.
It's not that they don't believe in the Creative Society. The only person who can disbelieve in the Creative Society is someone who hasn't familiarized himself with it, who doesn't understand how simple and realistic it is, or someone who doesn't want it. However, only an idiot or a sociopath wouldn't want the Creative Society, as we already said. But every sane human being wants to live in the Creative Society. This implies tremendous opportunities. It's a completely different way of life. It is freedom. It's a genuine, truly genuine freedom, that kind of freedom for which people have been fighting for thousands of years, trying to find it. Whereas the Creative Society is exactly that genuine freedom for each and everyone. It is health. It is longevity. It's a different, beautiful world without evil and violence. Yes, evil will continue for a while, and many people are skeptical. How's that? How will you get rid of it? We won't get rid of it. It will disappear on its own. Everyone will simply work on themselves. Why? Because right now, in the consumerist format, evil means domination. In order to survive and be successful here, people sometimes have to be evil and awaken the animal nature in themselves. Actually, a human being is dual. We already talked about it more than once, and everyone knows it. On the one hand, a human is an angel, and on the other hand, a human is a beast. This consumerist format of ours promotes the domination of the animal nature in a person. Otherwise, he cannot survive in business or at work, and even in families. The animal plays a dominant role sometimes in order to establish order and be obeyed. There is constant struggle for survival, for dominance, and a mere desire to seem to be someone you are actually not. But here's a simple question. What is a human being in fact? In fact, What he should be is the angel. And this is really so. It's a free, loving being who exists forever. Not even one who exists, but who lives rather than exists. Angels actually live. It is us who exist in this consumerist format. Why? Because our lives depend on many factors. We cannot be truly free. No one in this world can. Why? We depend on even a small microbe. We depend on just anything. We depend on other people's will. Somebody simply wants to take something that doesn't belong to him, and millions of people already suffer. Isn't that so? This has been going on for millennia. Are we actually free in this world? No. Can we travel wherever we desire? Yes, we can, if that desire matches our capabilities. And that's it. But if we want to go on a round-the-world trip, to just up and go, this very day, we face a lot of problems, right? Firstly, not everyone has the money for it. Secondly, visas. Not everyone can freely cross various borders. And thirdly, and this is probably the main point, a person cannot come anywhere and simply survive in that region, not to mention being safe. This is really so, and that's our consumerist format. While in the creative society, excuse me, it is safe for a person everywhere, and doors are open everywhere. He has money to travel. A person doesn't have to work, and this is really so. Many people also say that there will be those who will do nothing. We have discussed this point more than once. They won't. People will develop their talents, and there are plenty of talents in people. This is indeed true. Look at the creative society participants. After all, there are people who were engaged in various kinds of work, far from what they are doing now. How many talents have awakened in people? A lot. How have people really changed? It's like they remove the blinders from their eyes and see that the world is much bigger than they thought it was before. And those people only took the path of volunteering. They want and strive to build the creative society for all. But even when they joined the project and began to actively take part in it, they saw many more opportunities and freedoms than they had seen in their entire lives. And they saw far more genuine, honest, and decent people among the volunteers building the creative society than they had seen in their entire lives. Isn't that wonderful?
Igor Mikhailovich, another very interesting point is that indeed, when one looks at the participants of the Creative Society project, or at least when those who do not act yet look at them, they really doubt themselves. They do not doubt the project itself, and they do not doubt the truth that is being voiced. They doubt themselves, whether they will succeed in acting the way the project participants do now.
They will. If they want to, they will succeed. Again, let's look at the participants. New people join every day. It's so amazing. It seems people are advanced in years, but they are so talented, so interesting. They convey this information to other people, and they do it creatively. This is really interesting. A person could be doing a completely different job all his life. In his entire life, he hasn't seen that freedom, while here he receives at least a little bit of it, even a small breath of it, tritely during informing people. This is liberating. Why? Far from everyone can approach a stranger and start a conversation with him. Do you know why? Consciousness holds people back. All of our stoppers are all in our consciousness. And when people get rid of these, I would say stereotypical anchors in their consciousness, they already gain freedom. Yes, here in the consumerist format, right now, a lot of people around the world are gaining that inner freedom, which gives us all hope for the future, for tomorrow. Why? Because if some can do that, others will be able to do it as well. And here, everything depends on the courage of a person himself, first and foremost. Of course, if a person is a coward, if he has been turned into such a slave, he is afraid. He is afraid even of his own shadow. It is hard for him to step over himself. But it's enough to take one step and see that the world is much wider, and people are much better than his consciousness told him. After all, there are a lot of people in the world. As of today, there are already more than 8 billion. And just imagine that each of them is endowed with the same soul as you are endowed with, my friend. Can they really be as bad as consciousness draws it? Yet, each of them has the same consciousness, which draws in the same way, and says that you are bad. But do you really agree that you are bad? And that's the answer. All of us are simply divided by our consciousness. There are no other stoppers. There's nothing else but our consciousness, because of which we still live in the consumerist format, whereas we should have already lived in the creative society for at least 1,000 years, or even more. That's the entire answer to what our consciousness is capable of. And who stands in our way? No one but our consciousness. We are divided exactly by our consciousness. And when it divides us, it also manipulates us, simply depriving us of the opportunity to truly live. Just tell me, what is happiness? A simple question. It is different for everyone. We've already answered this question, but I will ask it again. Answer yourselves honestly. What is true happiness for you?
Igor Mikhailovich, you have so clearly noted that indeed the main barrier on a person's path to informing is actually consciousness. It is Shaitan in his head. And I also paid attention to a comment from one of our viewers who says that she heard this insidious, cunning voice in herself saying, "They won't let us. They won't let us build the creative society." And she realized that the first person who doesn't let and doesn't allow it is basically she herself.
She herself.
She herself is the person who doesn't inform. She is the person who actually deprives herself
Of the future.
of those benefits and of the future. People deprive themselves of the opportunities and prospects that the creative society opens up and provides for a human being.
You see, except us, no one and nothing hinders us. We are ruining our own lives. Let's just look. Let me examine the simple life of ordinary people, okay? There are millions of them. Whom will we take, a man or a woman?
Let's take a woman.
Okay, let's take a woman.
For example.
For example. Why? Because men are stronger. They are more determined. Women are more affected by this life. A simple example. A woman gets married. Her husband eventually turns out to be an alcoholic, but they already have children. Somehow, they got divorced and went their separate ways. She gets married again. The husband is again an alcoholic, and she lives with him and suffers.
Consciousness draws such an evil fate, yes.
This is not an evil fate. It is she who creates such a problem for herself to the dictation of her own consciousness. Why? Because an egoist speaks in her. There is no other way to put it. And she is allegedly self-confident. She is allegedly so strong that she can wean a man from drinking. And she hopes every day that tomorrow she will cope with him. You see, it's a struggle for dominance. She will now re-educate an alcoholic, and he'll become a good man, the same as all women have. She couldn't cope with one man, so she got together with the second one, and she immediately sets a mindset for herself. I will definitely re-educate this one. I have a simple question. Are you a world-famous educator? Don't you feel sorry for your children? You've already thrown your life away. Well, isn't that so? In fact, it is really so. What did she see besides dirt, filth, and a drunken face? Pardon my bluntness, but it is so. It's not life, it's a nightmare. She just threw her life away. Messing with an alcoholic. An alcoholic is an egoist. We already discussed that. Due to certain reasons, he was unable to fulfill his talents. Being in such a psychologically depressed state, he hides his weakness and cowardice behind alcohol. Why cowardice? Because while being sober, he is afraid of this world. He sees that he is nobody, and he cannot do anything, and that this world is actually not the way alcohol draws it for him, or rather, consciousness draws it. When intoxicated with alcohol or drugs, it doesn't matter. Both alcohol and drugs change the perception of this world, and a person is in an illusion, where he means at least something, where it is easier for him to live. Well, it's easier for him, while it is worse for others around him. This is another way to collect vril. Why does an alcoholic or a drug addict collect vril? For consciousness, nothing more. In order to feed the demons in his head that create for him an illusion of his own importance. Meanwhile, all other relatives and friends just suffer and agonize. A question, what for? It's just a simple example of this woman. How many such women do you know, my friends? A lot of them, who give their lives away to try to re-educate an alcoholic. This is extremely difficult in this consumerist format. If a person himself has realized and wants to, he gives it all up and becomes a normal person. And he will never again touch either alcohol or drugs or anything else like that. But that's only if he has realized. But what if he has not? If he has not, then all his life he exists like an egoist, only for himself, just in order to drink these 100 grams or find some kind of a drug and change his illusion. Yet, what is all this for? Just a simple example.
Yes, right. It is difficult to re-educate someone who doesn't want it.
Of course.
Sometimes even when you work on yourself, you realize that you crave these changes and transformations in your life.
This is first of all.
But this is enormous work, yes. That is, you understand why you need these changes, but you understand that this is enormous work, your personal work.
You see, again, it is enormous work to re-educate an alcoholic. This is a life wasted in vain. And this is enormously hard work. A person has to endure a lot, sometimes even insults. That's a trifle. But there can also be beatings, scandals, and whatnot. You know, it's not life. It's not even in existence. It is, I don't know, slavery is probably better. With a good master, I mean, than such an existence. And again, the spiritual work of a person on himself, development of best qualities in himself, development of his own talents. Is this work? How can this be called work? It's a pleasure. When you evolve, when you spiritually ascend above this existence, it is not work, it is pleasure. It is simply a high. There's no other way to put it. Again, when you develop your own talents, is this really work? A simple question. They say no pain, no gain. Yes, you need to make an effort. You need to give up something. But excuse me, opposing Satan is not work. It's a reward. It's a pleasure. Whereas to serve him is actually work. And this is really so. It's a pit from which it seems impossible to get out. But an angel has wings, and it is able to fly out of any pit into which Satan has thrown it. Don't forget about this, friends. There's nothing difficult in overcoming these negative vices in yourself. What Satan has imposed on you is his problems. But when you accept them, these are your problems. However, if you refuse them, it will be his problems again. Is it really difficult, friends, to truly live, to live as a human? Sometimes people say, I'm under such pressure. I have so many problems. When would I engage in the creative society? When you build it, we will see. But what are you actually so busy with? A simple question. Answer it, people. What are you so busy with that you don't have time to build the creative society, your own wonderful future, and a future for your own children and grandchildren? What are you busy with? Yes, many people will say, I have children, work, something else, I have no time to breathe, and so on. But wait, what about the others? A lot of people who are really busy informing other people all over the world today, who are busy exactly with actively conveying information about the creative society to other people. Do they not have families? Are they less busy in this three-dimensional world than you are? Or a simple question, do they need it more than you do? You are actually the first ones who need the creative society because you are so enslaved by Shaitan that you don't even have a second for yourselves. Meanwhile, volunteers of the creative society are distinguished by the fact that they stop bowing down before Satan. They begin to love and respect the life of everyone, including those who do nothing, who are skeptical about the creative society and attach various labels. Freemasons, globalist, sectarians, or something else, whatever names they make up. And why do they make them up? In order to justify their uselessness, idleness, and indifference to their own life. These people's opinion will not affect our life, but their opinion influences their own life quite strongly. These people are the ones who separate themselves from the source of life and from the future, their own promising future, hoping they will be able to achieve something in this world or to become someone. Whoever you become, my friend, how long will you be in that role? A simple question. As for the prospects which the creative society gives you, your family and friends, and your descendants, nothing else will give them to you, and you yourself will not be able to create anything even close to the creative society for your family and friends. Isn't this true? So is it worth serving Satan, being, a scum and a jerk in this life, and standing in the way of your family, friends, and descendants, simply because of your own servility, to your own worthlessness? Sorry for calling things by their proper names, but I'm trying to call them nicely and gently, although I really want to call them as they are. You should agree, this is true. Our laziness, our fear, all this is not ours. It's what is imposed on us. At least in our thoughts, every one of us seeks to rise above the whole world. And the only way for each person to rise above the whole world is to build the creative society. This is really so. Only in those conditions, let's say, in truly hothouse conditions, every person can awaken a lot of talents in themselves. Each of us is actually talented. That's true. However, sometimes we don't see it and lead an aimless life. When a true genius who hasn't evolved could yet bring so much benefit to people in any science, in physics, in philosophy, it doesn't matter. He could grace this world like the central and the largest diamond on a king's crown. But instead, a person's life boils down, pardon me, to sweeping floors after the king. There is a big difference between being a diamond and a garbage collector. You have to agree.
Igor Mikhailovich, very many people justify their laziness by the fact that they don't have talents.
Everyone has a talent.
They basically bury their talents.
It is actually our own consciousness, the one we sometimes perceive as ourselves, that hides all our talents. Remember, people, God didn't send humans here to be slaves of Shaitan. He sent and endowed everyone with a talent, and many people even with several talents. This is true. We just don't develop them. But we are also accustomed to the situation when the same demons as our personal consciousness are telling us everywhere, on TV, in the press, and all around, that true geniuses are born once every 100 years or even less often. Every person is a true genius. And we were supposed to complement each other and make this world really colorful and fantastic. We should have had Eden if we implemented all our talents. Do you know what I would compare this to? To puzzle pieces. Just imagine a jigsaw puzzle that depicts the most beautiful picture, a real Eden, a technologically developed one, where we explore, let's say, not only the moon or Mars, which people dream about and have never been to, but we explore other galaxies. We live life to the fullest, long, and happily, without diseases and without numerous problems. And this kind of picture is drawn on those puzzle pieces, where every puzzle piece is us, each of us. However, instead of having such a picture and being in it, we are all turned over and mixed up. For this very reason, our world is a mess. That's why we kill and deceive each other. That's why we create threats for one another. And that's why we sometimes hate each other. Because our consciousness merely tells us stories. We are so stupid that we listen to the beast inside us and follow its prompts, feeling something completely different at the same time. Have we really degraded so much? A simple question. I don't believe we have degraded that much. God still believes in us, and we must believe in ourselves. So far, we have a chance to change this picture and really turn all the puzzle pieces over to their right side. And this is nothing but informing about the creative society. This will force a person to turn his face to the light and not say that only darkness is all around him. You know, It's like when a person turns around, buries his face into some pipe, and doesn't see anything around him. So he is standing and saying, "There is only darkness, and there is no air to breathe. Just pull your face out of the toilet and look around. The world is beautiful. And our capabilities are tremendous. We just need to turn over the puzzle pieces, which are lying with their rear bad side up, to the front side, and assemble this picture. Put it together into a single world. Is this really difficult? Can't we do that? We can, friends. But if we desire, and the desire should come forth. Everyone has it. What does it mean it should come forth? Every human as personality wants that from his soul, from his heart. Even seemingly the most brutal scoundrels of this world, murderers and crooks, are also people. And they have a soul, just like any, even the best person in this world. They crave such opportunities. They want to live to the fullest. They want to live as humans because they are, first of all, humans. And they deserve such a life, yet they became brutal because their life made them so. Our consumerist format and the work of our consciousness. False values that are imposed on us all day long from all sources of information. Isn't this true? Who is being promoted to us as an example? Murderers, thieves, criminals, and authority figures, whom we ourselves elect. Afterwards, we are being told what scoundrels they were, and we are offered to elect them again. Isn't that so? This negativity takes root in our minds, and it seems to us that's the way we should act and live, and that this is the right thing to do. And that's how we turned this world upside down. It is time to change the situation. And we can do that, friends. Your inner fear of taking the first step is one of the symptoms that you are a slave, my friend. You are afraid of people. A simple question. You live in a world where you are afraid of strangers, where you cannot simply approach and talk to any person because you think, what will he think of me? What will I tell him? He is the same human as you are, and you don't know what to tell him. That's the answer for you, my friends. To what extent we have turned this world into hell. No one has made hell of it except us. And since we turned it into hell, or even worse, we have almost destroyed it. This is really so. We discussed this at the forum. In fact, every normal, sensible person sees what is happening to the climate around him. No matter how hard they allegedly tried to fight it, everything is rolling down, not even rolling, but it's already flying into the abyss. However, we can stop these destructions and remove nearly all negativity from our lives. Everything is in our hands. We can make the world wonderful and happy. For that, one just needs to step over one's own weakness. And again, should stop listening to shaitan in one's head. You know, the best cure for this disease, for this servility and stupidity, is love. The love of a human for a human, and most importantly, the love of a human for God. Therefore, my friends, let's just start loving each other, and everything will be fine with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Igor Mikhailovich.
Thank you, friends. Thanks to everyone who doesn't give up, who is an example for those who doubt, since their lives are also valuable to us. Thank you, friends. Peace be with you.